your mother that is
Go,
Spanish.
Fernando.
I'm about to say some stuff to you, little boy. Good to see Todd here, Todd. I talked with somebody whose business card I just found. This guy Eric Koenig. I guess Brian remembers.
Oh my
it.
God! I was just thinking about it.
He was a self-starter guy. So I was going, a lot has happened recently. A lot where I was looking for one thing and I found 5 other things that were really helpful. I found this guy's card. We had seen each other at Pasquale's, and he had seen me adjusting, and I was pretty fresh out of school, and he was like, "Oh, cool, you're here with Pasquale, great." He saw me do something on the table, and he was like, "I thought you said you're here with Pasquale all the time, And he was wanting to give me some information, but it was so crowded. It was a day where there was a lot of people. We had a seminar there, and he didn't get to share it. So I talked to him the other days in South Carolina, but the first thing he said was Todd Harold introduced me to chiropractic or something, but he had you to mention. He also mentioned you, Phil. He said he covered your office. But anyway, so good to see you. So I'm going to be working 4 days in the new year, and it sounds great, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to spend more time with my family out in Pennsylvania, so that's great. But it is strange to be thinking I'm not going to be in my office that extra day. It's just something I always envisioned, I thought a 5-day-a-week thing was like a minimal. I was there for the people enough, and now the transition to 4, it's a whole different practice. Well, not a whole different practice, but it's a different attitude, a different pace. And I've been thinking about that a lot, about the pace of my practice, because I've noticed it's dwindled my practice, but I also see it's a direct correlation to my actual patience with the people. And just determining what kind of relationship we're going to have. Some people seem to require so much time, and I don't know if I want to give that to them sometimes, or get caught up in what they do. And then I have the thoughts of how Pasquale practiced, and I was talking to Eric, and he said, Pasquale said he could do somebody full spine, extremities in 90 seconds. So it's hard to think of that while also seeing the reality of my people who, it's hard sometimes to get them to, especially your first visit, just to sometimes even work on them, move part limbs. I had to tell a lady the other day, if you don't move this, and if you don't move it, it's not going to be painful, and you take those pills, but you're not going to be able to use the arm. If you want to use the arm, we're going to have to move it, and you're going to have to be uncomfortable. And I don't think you want to be uncomfortable, so what can I do, for you? I said, I adjusted her neck, but moving her arm was not in the cards. So I said, you have to try to move that arm, or you're not going to be able to, it's not going to work. And I left it on her, and we'll see what happens. But I also, just determine that line. How much patience and time do you give to the person? And the big transition I'm making. Anyway, that's all I have to share tonight.
All right, anyone want to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Mark?
Why is it going to be so weird to go down to 3 days?
It was 4 days. I just, the idea of just putting in the time and being there and being available for the people, that's, what I see, Pasquale had done. I see a guy like Phil, maybe 5-6 years ago, my back was killing me. I was like, I see so many people, I'm so busy, how can I do this? And then you realize this guy's doing this every day. And you see a guy like Phil, I'm lucky, I hang out with a lot of guys who are older, and they're still putting it out, and I go, oh, if they can do it, obviously I can do it. And just seeing all the effort people put in now to walk away at my age, it's like I feel like I'm halfway down the road here. And I almost feel like, I'm pretty sure I will come back into the practice even more fully once my kids are a little bit older. That's just a weird thing, I don't know, just about grinding away and being at it and stepping away and having that leisure, slowing. I know I have to slow down. That's always the message down. So slow down, take it easy, but it is frightening to slow down. The grind at least keeps you going. It's a discipline.
Anyone else like to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? One more time, anyone? All right, gracias, Fernando. Like I said, I wanted to let him go. All right, the floor is open. Whoever would like to speak. I'm going to move my seat, so I'm going to be in the way of the, I don't want to be in the way of the, if someone has to write something. So I'll just move it. All right, so whoever would like to speak, just come on up. I'll transfer my stuff. All right. So the floor is open. Whoever would like to come up, or anyone from the Zoom world, just let me know.
All right, I'll do it since nobody wants.
Senor Todd Harold.
Hello, everyone. So, I remember the very first time that I was at Self Center. Pasquale said, "You got 3 minutes, come up, you need to be able to speak in front of people." I swear to you, my heart was not in my throat, it was like up in my sinuses. It was beating so hard. I was freaking out. But I knew I had to do it. And when I did it, I still felt the next time a lot of anxiety. But then I started going back to my office, and I would stand in front of the mirror and I would just talk to the mirror as though it was a room full of people. And it began to let go. And then I started doing live TV and I started doing live radio. And if you mess up there, it's a glaring mistake. But at that point, I realized that what we all need to do, or what we all, in essence, we have a sacred obligation to send out the message. And I was driving over here, and it reminded me of a way that I used to send out the message in my neighborhood where I was on the Upper West Side for about 20 years. There was apartment buildings everywhere, just like there is right here in your neighborhood, Ryan. And I would go for a walk at lunchtime. I'd start at 7 a.m., I'd see patients until about 1, then I had returned at 3. There were people waiting by the time I got back into the office at 2. It was like packed already. But I would walk through the neighborhood and I would say to every single window of every single apartment building, the word's coming out, so come on in. The word's coming out, so come on in. The word's coming out, so come on in. And I would do that for like a half an hour every single day until I got so busy that I didn't have time to go walking anymore. So every thought you have, as Pasquale taught me many years ago. By the way, Pasquale was the best man at my wedding. He was such an incredible human being. But every time that you have a thought, every time that you speak a word, it has a lot of weight to it. So think pure thoughts and have great intention and engage others in your mission too. I had a sign on my wall in my office. It said, think 1,000 patients per week. Patients would come in and they would say to me, Dr. Hill, what does that mean? I said, what do you think it means? They'd say, it says you want to see 1,000 patients a week. I said, yeah. And they said, by the way, I wanted to do that because Pasquale had done that, so I figured what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And they would say, well, are you doing that? And I said, not yet, so bring me some more people. And finally it came to be. Which means that whatever you're thinking is what's exactly going to happen in your life. So if you think that it's a struggle, or if you think that it's fun, or if you think that it's overwhelming, or you think that it's smooth and easy, that's the way your practice is going to be. So make a decision, what kind of practice you'd like to have, how you'd like to serve. Many years ago, I'll end with this, that I don't know how much time I've spent, but I was at a meeting with Bill Remling in Queens, and Dr. Phil Bracco was there. I didn't even know him. And he got up and he started talking about how he had worked with a guy named Tom Pristursky because he wanted to learn how to serve. But even prior to that, he had worked in a hospital changing bedpans so that he could learn how to serve people. And I thought to myself, you know, that's what I need to do. I need to learn how to serve. And I was a martial artist and I wanted to know who was the master chiropractor, just like there was a master of martial arts. Somebody told me about Pasquale. I think it might have been Phil or it might have been Bill Remling, I'm not sure. And started making my way to Brooklyn. And Self-Center helped me to become the human being who I am. And that's all I got to say about that.
Anyone like to ask Todd anything? Anyone? Anyone? One more time. Fernando.
I don't know, just what do you have to say? You've been practicing for a long time. Anything else you want to share? You got the time. What are you doing now chiropractically? How's that manifesting you now? You've been in a long time.
So,
is it different now? You see 1,000 patients now?
No,
So you,
No, I only do office coverage now. What happened was I blew out my lower back about 10 years ago. I thought I was going to be crippled for the rest of my life. I couldn't actually walk for a month. I literally couldn't. It was really bad. I was in excruciating pain. And I had disability insurance, and the disability company told me, tough luck, you know, you make too much money in another business that you have, we're not giving you a dime. So now I don't carry disability anymore. But I couldn't really practice, and I lost the practice that I had. I just didn't have the wherewithal to deal with it. But one door closes, another one opens. And so I basically retired, and then Frank, I don't know if you guys remember Ray Richopo.
Yeah.
So Ray passed away. I was at the funeral with Frank Gilbert. Frank
You were
said,
there too.
yeah. Frank said, I don't know what to do. Ray was working with me, and now I don't know what to do. I said, well, maybe I'll work with you, Frank. That was another 3.5 years with Frank. Then Frank sold his practice. I was sitting in my house in White Plains and decided to sell it, moved to Yonkers. Guy said, hey, Rich Harvey, I don't know if you guys know Rich Harvey. Hey, can you come and cover? I said, sure. Lasted there for a couple of years. Then I moved on from there to where I am now with John Sage. So even though I'm retired, like John just got shoulder surgery, because us warriors, you know, we wear down after a while, but you still can deliver the goods. And so John just got surgery, so I'm working all of December, even though I'm retired. So that's what I'm doing with my time.
Does anyone else want to ask Todd anything?
Yes, Mark.
Do you miss having a regular practice where you're starting and?
Quite honestly, it is kind of a regular practice because I'm the only guy that's really there most of the time. Even when he didn't have shoulder surgery, I was there basically Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday mornings. So
No, I kind of mean like, you know, starting new people and doing.
I start the new people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's running the show.
Which, by the way, brings up a very important point, Mark. Pasquale always taught us to say to every new patient, does anybody know? What brings you here?
Yeah, that's right.
And then they would tell you, and then you'd say, what would you like from me? See, I paid attention. I figured if it was good enough to create what he created, I was going to copy that and use it. And so I did that with him. I also found other very successful. When I say very successful, I thought that serving large volumes of people was how I define success, and the money would just follow. And as Pasquale always said, fast nickels and dimes instead of slow quarters. So I had a nice, affordable fee, and a lot of folks, and yeah.
Anyone else want to ask?
I don't know if
Todd?
I answered your question.
Yeah, I was more interested, you know, you work in December, but I meant you were working like steady days all the time before.
Yeah, so I will tell you, Mark, in all honesty,
You
that
miss
I don't miss that.
Yeah, okay.
No, I mean, you know, I'm 60, almost 69 years young. I don't know if you guys know that Mike Tyson just had a fight yesterday,
I saw it.
and I was actually in awe. Everybody else was like, "This is bull," you know, what is going on here? I said to myself, "Here's a man who you know, we take care of people all the time that are 58 that can't even like walk. And this guy was in a ring with a young dude, and he was bouncing off of the walls, and I was very, very respectful and impressed with that. But no, I don't want to see 300 people a day anymore. No, that's definitely not something that floats my boat.
Nice to get that process. All right, back for Todd. All right, the floor is open. Who'd like to come up next? All you gotta do is raise your hands. Anybody? Phil Bracco.
Okay, Dr. Bracco. Hey, I'm Phil Bracco from Staten Island, New York. I'm the only chiropractor in Staten Island. Anyway, Todd brought back a lot of old memories.
long time ago. Right? It was good times. Yeah, really good times. It was excellent. Anyway, what Todd said was talking about what you think is what you create. And over the years, I tried to create a practice for myself that would fit for me. And I think I have, yeah, I have. So what kind of a practice I have is I have a practice filled with love and good feelings throughout the whole day. People come in, they hug me, they kiss me, and they get their adjustments. And between the hugging and them leaving, I really don't say too much to anybody. I kind of just adjust and then, get out of the room and go on to the next. But it's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I wanted a practice filled with love. And when you get in that love and you're serving people, it just becomes part of you. And just to take one day off is like almost like dropping some part of your body off. And I understand, but it'll work out fine. Don't worry about that. But, so that's what I created over the years. But I'm happy I did it that way.
Anyone like to ask Bill anything? Anyone? Anyone? Todd?
Dr. Brock, how many days a week do you serve?
Now, I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I start at 9 and I work till about 12:31, and then I come back at 4. And I work till 7:30, depends. And on Saturday mornings, a couple hours, 10 to 1. I just took off Tuesdays for the first time in all these years. It's about a month ago I took Tuesdays off.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything?
How's your mom?
Mom's gone.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? I want to ask you something, Phil. What was your first self-centered meeting? Do you remember?
Oh, geez, I remember that. I had gone to Bill Remling's, and I remember every month at Bill Remling's, they used to ask for somebody to come up and give their lay lecture to but I always gave lay lectures to people, but I never gave them to other chiropractors. And I was kind of nervous that night, and it turned out okay, but it could have been a lot better. And Bill Remling said to me, you should go see Pasquale on Thursday nights. And the first time I went there, I remember standing up and talking, saying hello to everybody, introducing myself, and I got a warm feeling from it, and I never stopped after that, pretty much.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything?
Because I'm not sure if everybody had the good fortune of being in the inner sanctum, so to speak, with Pasquale. Could you just describe to everyone, aside from the auditorium downstairs, just the entire operation that he had, his home upstairs, his his office.
He had a home office, and it was great. I'm sure for him it was really wonderful. He served people, and that's what he did. He actually was retired when I met him, so I didn't really see him practicing. But he had a beautiful thing, and that's what he created. And that's what we all create. We create what we sow, what we think, what we create.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? All right, Phil, excellent. Thank you. All right, stop the floor is open for whoever would like to come up. For anyone from the Zoom world. You don't have to speak, by the way. We're not here to force people. But I'm going to keep this thing running if no one's going to come out. So,
How do I say hi to Nancy?
just say hi.
Hi, Nancy.
Anyone else? Nancy, we have Zoom. Sora's hanging out our little guy Jack. He's 3. He's probably getting to the bed now. So she probably won't be able to speak right now.
Nancy wants to say something?
So Nancy, do you want to say anything? No? You two?
Okay.
All right. Text
Mark
Johnson.
Johnson, chiropractor, Red Bank, New Jersey.
Should do bells.
Yeah, in fact, I was with him about a couple of weeks ago at New Beginnings. And it's funny because New Beginnings was in the 18th of October. And it's wild being around, because I think I was one of the oldest guys there. I'm 69, they're all like younger chiropractors practicing, you know, maybe 5, 10, 15 years. And we had a self-center meeting there, and it was really nice. It was a lot of respect given to Pasquale, which he never really was getting at when he was there necessarily, from what I heard from Brian at different times. But it's kind of a different vibe there, and it seems like a lot of younger chiropractors are getting into tonal chiropractic, which I went to 2 weekends ago. I went to this guy Tulski. He's 86 years old, and he teaches tonal adjustment. That's his thing. And he had a protege that's like 40 years old who now is actually going to be taking it over with him. And it was really interesting because everything that he did, it's kind of like he spoke about all the different history of chiropractic because he knew all these old timers that were actually doing it with the asking the feet, the DNFT, directional non-force. There, he had spoken about toughness, who I studied with in like 1978. That was a long time ago when he had this little, they used to call it the squeak box. But basically what it does is it gives you a biofeedback because you're electric field touching the person and you have this on you. You could pretty much rub on any plastic. And so that was one of them. And then he had spoken about Don Epstein with network spinal analysis. He doesn't even call it network chiropractic anymore because basically it's what they call entrainment. He doesn't even call it adjustments, is what this guy was saying anyway. So it made me think because all that we do, and Pasquale said it's not about the bones either, right? And so he was describing all the attachments of the meninges in the spinal cord into the inside of the column and in the occiput. He was up into the ethmoid bones and through the temporal and the jaw, and then all the way down under the occiput, atlas axis going down to like what, C5, and then he was talking about the sacrum and all. So the spinal cord is suspended inside the bone structure. And I mean, I studied it, we all knew about it, stuff like that, but it's really trippy when you think about it, because when I went home, I'm looking at people laying on the table now, and I'm seeing the way the body contours and all, and I'm thinking about the whole inside the bone structure. So when you're looking at the spinal column, and you're looking in there, and you're thinking about, oh, these attachments, they're like little wires, and when your feet, you have a lot of heel tension, and it's like you got something in the spinal cord that's actually rocking anterior superior, or it's going inferior posterior. And then people with supination of the foot or foot flare, you got something in the cord that's torquing like that, and what part of the spine affects that. So for me, it's like almost like I went to Disney World, and they used to put a pill in there was a movie about somebody took a pill and it was like a submarine inside through the body, through the blood vessels, right? So for me, I was like, during that whole seminar that I was 3 days with the guy, and he's talking about it, I was feeling, he was talking about the fluid inside, the neural canal, the cerebrospinal fluid, and the attachments. And it's really wild because their whole approach is to like connect with universal intelligence and step back, really look at the body and kind of like look at what's going on in the body. And there's probably about 15 different checks they do. You don't have to do them all. You don't even have to do any of them. We're at a point where we can probably feel most of it anyway with our connection. But he was talking about, looking for and asking the body, where's the best place that I can put some input that I can help you release yourself to that person's innate. And it was pretty cool working with these guys. And there was only 16 of us, and there were people from all over the United States. And you could see the combined, the reverence that these chiropractors had there about looking and where could they get the best, where did that body want to let them in? And I don't think we all think about it maybe necessarily like that. Like where's the window of opportunity that you could go and ask their innate, like, hey, what can I do to help bring this heel tension or whatever? And it's amazing how fast it happens. It really is. And then you're supposed to, we're done. And then you're supposed to get back, and then you get yourself centered and you go, all right, and then you go in there, and when you make the contact, you're telling the body, okay, I'm making this adjustment now. And we all do this automatically anyway with breathing in the pause and what Pasquale was talking about, adjusting the person in the pause. And but it was neat to see that these people had broken it down into other things. And I guess another part of it was like just picturing.
I'm gonna cut you off, Mark.
I know.
Let someone ask you.
Okay.
Go ahead, what do you want to finish?
No, I was just gonna say inside, getting into inside, like I'm really been thinking about the cord inside of the column now a lot more, like how wild it's almost like swims in there. It's suspended in animation, so.
Anyone else want to ask Mark anything?
Has that changed, like when you got back to the office after that, did that change how you were kind of approaching things with your peoples?
Oh, yeah.
In what way?
Well, first of all, it slowed me down a lot. Because I'm going through, I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to apply all the stuff that I learned. So after about the first hour of that, I was like, I can't. I gotta just keep rolling. I gotta keep moving. I had a full schedule. And, but it changed as far as the approach to the body and thinking about inside, like what's inside the cord, how's the cord inside, and looking at people on the table. That was one of the biggest things. Like I'm really observing the body a lot differently now, and like letting it give me some feedback with it. And it got me back into grabbing my toughness unit, because you were supposed to give them back, but I had it, and I was like, okay, let me do this and just see, because they were doing it all mental checks. And some of them do this with their hands or something. I didn't get it, and I thought, instead of doing that, I'm just going to use something that I already learned a long time ago to get feedback on these checks that I was doing through the body. But yeah, it changed a lot.
Anyone else want to ask Mark anything? All right, Mark, Rossi.
Thank you, Will.
All right, the floor is open. Whoever would like to speak. All right, Alex.
Alex Wilkowitz, chiropractor from Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. You know, you were talking about how you kind of and felt like creating something very special where you like to be. And you know, for me, I've kind of put in a lot of effort, and the years are starting to add up. And it's funny that right now it kind of almost seems like the plants are finally growing. And it's funny, I've had like a lot of new people that are referred by other people because I have a horrible location and like no signage. I don't charge a lot of money, but it's funny when you actually get like kind of like what you want, where you're so busy at times where you start to you have to keep things moving, because you know people don't really appreciate being there for over an hour waiting to get seen. But it's funny, I started having thoughts of, man, I need a break. And I put so much work in to kind of get to the place where I'm busy like that, and already I'm like, oh, I need a break. And it's like, this is what I've been kind of like working towards, you know, growing the practice from a seed and, you know, getting a little seedling, and now finally there's a little fruit. So it's funny how that works. When you actually get what you want, it's almost like, wow, this is a lot of work. Whereas it's a lot easier when you don't have a lot of people and you can kind of just take your time and BS with people a little bit and just kind of chill. But when you have a ton of people and you have no room in the waiting room, and you really got to keep things going, or it just gets a little ridiculous. And you don't want people to think they get to the point that they have to invest so much time when they come there just to be seen. But yeah, it makes you think about like how you're actually approaching people, and it would be nice if you could really delve in deeply on everybody. But like for myself, having a practice where I don't charge a lot of money, I really kind of have to see more people. I don't really have the kind of practice where I can see 1 or 2 people an hour. So things to think about. But it's kind of exciting when people do keep sending you people even without advertising and having a location without signage. That's about it.
All right, anyone want to ask Alex anything? Todd?
Alex, why do you feel that delving deep into people requires time?
I think inherently I just like to be comfortable and slow. And it's nice, but it seems like, especially having open hours, I also see people by appointment, but with open hours, everybody seems to want to come in at the same time. It just naturally, you have times where there's tumbleweed, and then times where there's no room for anybody to stand or sit. So, it would almost bring the question of what would I really want? Like, I don't think I would ever want to see like 1,000 people a week. I don't think I could with the speed at which I move, but I feel like it takes me more time to really delve in and start to peel layers away.
Anyone else want to ask Alex anything? Anyone? Anyone? One more time. Excellent day, Alex. Good job. All right? Does anyone in Zoom world want to say anything? Nancy Brown.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Very
that's
clear.
amazing. I'm sorry I was late. I had a really hard time getting on Zoom. They wanted to put me into Zoom workplace thing and wouldn't let me in, and I'm just glad I got here. I want to just share an experience that I had, and it was kind of shocking. This past month, I had a very bad virus, and was going to chiropractic, and at the end of it, I ended up having something really bad happening by my left hip in the mid back, my left rib in the mid back, and so because I've been blessed with a wonderful chiropractor down here in Florida, I spoke to her about it, and I said, I just want to know if I cracked my rib, even if there's a splinter crack in it, I want to know. So I called. It was a Sunday, and I had spoken to her, and I called these urgent care places and said, I just run in, get an X-ray, come out with the answer. None of them in Florida by me were doing X-rays on the weekend. And I don't trust them anyway, so she said, well, why don't you just go to the emergency room, in and out, you'll get an X-ray, and it'll be done, and at least you'll put your mind at ease that you know what's going on. Okay, so I did that. I went to an emergency room in a big regional hospital for the first time in my life. And I've never been exposed to something like that. And it took, I think, 4 hours for me to get an X-ray. By the time I was explaining to people what happened, and they want to know your history, they asked me for my medication list, and I give them my list of all my supplements, and they want to know, you're not taking any medication? I said, no, these are my supplements, So, okay. Anyway, what was hilarious, it was funny. I'm just cracking up, and it was like extremely efficient. They come in, the nurse says this, to do this, to take you to the X-ray, they wouldn't even let me walk. The guy says, it's our policy, we have to put you in a wheelchair to get you to the X-ray. So it was really quite an experience. the doctor who gave me the results was named Dr. Strong. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was just hysterical. So anyway, P.S. I don't have a cracked rib, thank God. And, resting in bed and lots of chiropractic adjustments. I'm doing a whole lot better. And it takes time. It was some kind of an acute, what did they say, acute chronic spasm, something. They didn't know what to do. So anyway, what was shocking to me, in reflecting on the whole experience, I'm extremely spoiled, It was Frank Gilbert who brought me to Pasquale. Frank was my chiropractor for 28 years in New York, and after the doctors told me I'd be crippled and in a wheelchair, Frank looked at me and said, no, you, me, and God are gonna heal this. And anyway, came to Florida. I've just been blessed between Brian now and Paula Hedgelon, Armin Rossi. Now I see Christina Jensen here in Florida. And what I realized was what they were missing in the hospital, even though they were very efficient at what they did. They had a protocol they were going by. They totally missed the holiness of the human body. They didn't really get it, that every single part of our body was made by God, is continuously being made by God at every moment, and it is God who's healing us. And I just felt like, where is God in this place? And it was just astounding how sterile and physical universe based the hospital system was. And I'm just grateful that I've been with chiropractors who really know deeply the holiness of all of our bodies, of the chiropractor's body, or my body, everybody, like understanding the presence of God in the healing. It's just, anyway, just want to share that. I'm very, very grateful. And shout out hi to Todd, met you in Frank's office.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Actually, we saw each other in Self Center right before that.
Yeah, probably. I probably went, like they say, Stu North. I didn't remember, but okay.
Anyone want to ask Nancy anything?
Where in Florida are you?
I'm in Boca Raton at the moment in South Florida.
Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? One more time. Go ahead.
Nancy, do you have a tuning fork?
A tuning fork?
Yeah.
No?
Did you know, I've been told this, I've never done it, but I was told that if you strike a tuning fork and put it onto a fractured bone, there'll be a sharp pain, and if you don't have a fracture, you'll just feel a vibration.
That's interesting. I guess it's a diagnostic tool, as they would say in the hospital.
Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? All right, then we'll clap for Nancy Brown. Thank you, Nancy. All right, then. Well, Sarah, you gonna say anything? I think she's with Jack. All right, so then I'll go. My name is Brian Patrick Corrigan. I'm a chiropractor in Jersey City, New Jersey. Well, real quick, the first time I went to the Self Center meeting was January 1998. Before I got there, the basement, the auditorium had been flooded. So the meetings were in the back room where the fireplace was. So it was cold, there was a fire going, and there was a table going, and guess who I got to sit next to? Pasquale. And I wasn't used to being at these meetings. I had no idea what was going on. So I said something very briefly, then someone asked me something, and Pasquale felt my answer was too long. He didn't say it to me directly. He said, he stopped the meeting, And he goes, if someone asks you something when you answer, don't talk too much. You get yourself into trouble. Say yes, no, I don't know, or a brief explanation. That's where I got that from, what I said tonight. And I said, all right, this guy means business. So, but I've been a self-centered guy ever since. One of the things Pasquale told me, the last big conversation I had with him, which was a few days before he left our mortal eyes, as he would say, he said, go beyond everything you ever learned. And that's really a big thing. And the other thing he told me was, many times, that he wasn't perfect, and he still had a lot to learn, even though he was 98 at the time. And he says, Brian, you don't have to be like me. You have to be the best Brian that you could possibly be. Now this is a quote from Jim Bradman, who we spoke about earlier. When Pasquale passed away, he was scheduled, he was in a book called Chiropractor Revealed by David Shiner. He interviewed a bunch of chiropractors and put it in a book. And they were going to speak down at Life in May of 2010. Well, Pasquale passed away, so he couldn't go. So I went, Tom Musto and Jim Bradman. We all spoke, we took his time. We split it up between three of us. So Jim Bradman said this, because I was just one of the speakers, they gave me a CD so I could go back and look at it. So Jim Bradman said, the students loved Pasquale, but he said some chiropractors did not like Pasquale at all, because he was a threat to them. He did not threaten them, but who he was and his presence was so dramatic and so dynamic, and he was such an advanced human being, if you were not prepared to make yourself better, you had to hide. And I saw that happen personally with him and I saw the people who were just out for that buck, they viewed Pasquale as a threat. Because they figured if people start going to him, because Pasquale's job is to help us find who we really are. And some of these people want to do the exact opposite, because that's how they control people. And his presence made them extremely nervous. Another Jim Bradman. Wow, Jim Bradman's 2 in a row. Jim Bradman said this. He asked Pasquale, how could a guy like Elvis destroy himself with drugs? Pasquale said, sometimes we create aspects of ourselves, and the aspects takes on a life of their own. Now I'm going to add on to that in a second. I went through some of these things popped up in my head. So I went and watched these videos, I wrote down these quotes, and I will bring it all together. So let's just start. Pasquale was talking about, in this video, about the pineal gland and the multidimensional man. So he's talking about being in the rest, or the pause. He says, when you're in, says, the rest, which is called no man's land or ground zero. It is in that rest where this pineal gland is. It has no ebb and it has no flow. It has no time. The only thing it has is a multi-dimensional man in there. The man meaning male, female. The man outside of this is a particle. You can take it apart. But the multi-dimensional man, multi-dimensional man cannot be taken apart because it is like a hologram. And a hologram, you can tear it to pieces. The smallest pieces are still the man. You can never destroy the man, even though it may go to sleep. So many people, I think, as I said, they don't view themselves as being whole. You ever see some people, they refer to that person's broken. To me, it's like they fell asleep. The Bible says they went to the land of Nod, to sleep. It's called like the carotid gland in Greek. It's from a Greek word which means stupor. It's like we've been in a stupor all these years. A lot of people are so cut off from God, they really lose sense of who they are, and they feel as if broken apart. And if they don't feel that connection to God, that's how people, in my opinion, commit crimes, and why there's wars, and why there's all these things, all right? So, and people have to understand we are God's image. I'll get to that a little bit later, too. Now, this is from the Gnostic Gospel. If you don't know what that is, look it up, Gnostic. This is from the book of Thomas, verse 70. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. What I'm saying is, I'm going to give a quote, and I'll get back to that. Pasquale would always say, God is an imager, not a creator. So what does that mean to you? What do you think that means? Now, he used to talk about the word create means to bring forth. But we are that image, but we have to bring forth that image, that God's image, out to animate it, to activate it, to make really heaven here in our world. And that's what chiropractic does. And Mark, he did talk about the bones, but Pasquale said the bones were very important because the light travels through the bones. So that was very important. So I'm glad you brought that up. Oh wait, I messed up. I messed up. So now we have to go through another, this is a meeting from February 1st, 2007. It says Mark Johnson asked Pasquale this, and I wrote it down. Mark says to Pasquale, how can we best use the pause? And Pasquale answers, when you serve someone, empty yourself out. He says, when you give, and he put his hands out, when you give someone, like serve someone, and after you're done serving them, don't take your hands off right away. Just pause, and then take your hands off. Don't spring off. That I'll get to later too. Now, he says, we will not sweat anymore. We will perspire. So just think about that. Per means through, and then spire, the spirit. It's like through the spirit. And he says, now, this is him, Pasquale, talking again. It's like the spirit coming through. We have a halo and an aura. Nothing can come in unless it is friendly. In other words, this aura, this halo vibrates at a particular rate, and this is something like for physics. Those of you like physics, you'll like this. Like attracts like, and unlike repels. It's not like what they tell us about the magnetic. Like magnets, you do, the opposites attract each other. Well, this is the exact opposite. He's saying like attracts like. So only what is good for us will come in. What is not good for us cannot come in even if it tries. This is our protector. This is what we chiropractors are helping people to do. Especially now, it's time for us to go through the metamorphosis of change towards the spirit. So there's that word spirit. So now this is me saying, the word meta means beyond, and morph means it means form. But I think we're going beyond the form of the system. Chiropractic for me is about having the conditions of heaven here. And we get that by, once again, the spirit traveling through the bones. So now here's another one, which I'm sure some people, they hear this, will get a little stirred up. Why did chiropractic come here? Why chiropractic came here? Another video from Pasquale. He talks about in the rest, which is the pause, that is the only truth. It is absolute. Everything else is relative. Now remember, this is about, he said chiropractic, he said remember, it did not come here primarily to be a healing art. He says, true, we have to be perfect, so we have to heal ourselves. And this is why we do what we do. So let us be ready, so when it happens, so when, like he said, when he means happens, when we start a new nation, then we will continue this ever spiritual progression. So once again, this ever spiritual progression, and that is who we are. That is why chiropractic came here. Sure, we had to start at the very beginning. This is why Didi had to go. He was too far advanced. Now the time has come. Are you willing to change for the better? Like, you have to ask that yourself. So think about this. We have that new nation coming in, and we have to start this, I'm going to say it again, this ever spiritual progression. Let's think about Didi Palmer for a second. This guy came in 1895. He got chiropractic from the spirit world, and he starts going out there serving all these people. So what happened? He gets arrested. They gave him a hard time. He's just harassed constantly. I even read some of the transcripts from the trials they had him in. And then he goes, and I really think he had to say what he said in the beginning just to get it out there. But his big thing was, what is life? He used to always talk about that, D.D. Palmer, what is life? And it's really, he knew what the truth of chiropractic was, and I think he was about to deliver it. But the way I look at it is the world wasn't ready for what he had to deliver. So he had to go. So we had to go through all this stuff we had to go through to get to this point where we are right now, so we can really understand what chiropractic really is. These words I'm going to write down. So, Pasquale was attached to the spiritual realm. So when D.D. Palmer went to that medium, he was given some words. So foramen, interference. I'll write it pretty big. So I'm saying them so I know the people on Zoom can't see it. So foramen, interference, and transition. And the last one is subluxation. I'll let other people, whatever these words mean to you, they mean to you. That's fine with me. Now, one of the things Pasquale said, so D.D. Palmer was given these words. For Raymond, for those of you who don't know, it's like where the vertebral column comes together, the spinal nerves come out, there's a little hole. Raymond just means a window, it's like a window. And the nerves come from the spinal cord and they go out. So I'll just say what that word means for the moment. Now Pasquale said he was given these words, D.D. Palmer, and D.D. Palmer was talking about how, yes, it puts pressure on the nerve, it's an interference, and a subluxation. He used all those words. But the one thing I learned from Pasquale was, he says he was never told that during that, from the media, through that reading. So I think, what do these words mean to me? For Raymond means window. Interference, if you break it down, inter means between. The interference part is from a word F-E-R-R-E, which means to strike. So to strike between, transition, this means across. Subluxation, we learned in school, was less than a luxation means a dislocation, less than a luxation. So, but for me, the subluxation means, sub means under, lux means light, put an N there, a nation under the light. So if we really think about, it's like chiropractic gives us that window. We can like strike in between what we call the earthly realm and the heavenly realm. So we can get across to see what the heavenly realm really is. And I think at some point we'll finally just realize we can do this. We gotta get rid of all this debris out of us, and we can be that nation under the light. And to me, that's what Pasquale was talking about in those quotes. Just being in that light and being it. All right, I'm almost done. And then the other thing I realized for myself is when people come into me, I can't ask them to do anything except be who they are. So they come in, I always say in Spanish, I say, ¿Quién le mandó aquí? Who sent you here? ¿Por qué estás aquí? Why are you here? Or in English, like I just said it, why are you here? What brings you here? Who sent you here? Usually they tell you without asking, but sometimes they don't, so I ask. But I don't ask them to do anything, because I feel that's like me forcing my thoughts on them, how I think they should behave, or anything on them. What I have to do is make this place where I'm here in this zone, when they come in, I want them to feel safe. I want that person, when they come here to see me, they feel safe, where they can do whatever work it is they need to do to get rid of any fear in them, or anger, or aggression, whatever it is they have inside them, trapped inside of them, or any stumbling blocks. They can come here and work through all that and get through it, and then you'll notice that they're not so angry anymore, they're not afraid anymore. Whatever was ailing them, whatever it was, that starts to go away. And that to me is big. And as far as the spirit traveling through the bones, sublimation is a process. You know what dry ice is? It's frozen carbon dioxide. It's never a liquid. It just goes, it always stays the solid form of dry ice or vapor. So Pasquale says, picture that's how we are. It's the spirit and to bone, and the bone and spirit. There's no water to get in the way. I'll let you guys think it. You can watch all these videos if you go to the website. So now, I did write something here. We got to start tying all these things together. It's really by doing all these things and conquering these stumbling blocks. Say the outside's controlling us. Once we get all this stuff inside, we're going to control the outside. So what is that to me? What does that mean? If I have peace inside of me, the only people that are going to be around me are going to be peaceful people, and who want to be, like Phil, you said, they're loving people. And to me, an example of this, Phil was up here at the last meeting. He was the featured speaker, and he was called to at the last second, you were called to speak at what's called St. Teresa's?
Right.
A school called St. Teresa's.
Mother's Club.
What?
Mother's Club.
Mother Club. And he went last second, am I right? So he shows up, he speaks whatever he has to say, and afterwards, these women are coming up to him, his information. He doesn't even he's not prepared to write everyone's name down. Next thing you know, he got busy after that. To me, that's an example, Phil, of you just being that source of love, and they're like, I want some of that. You didn't, like, I don't even know if you were thinking about, oh, I'm gonna write all these names down. Because you didn't, the good thing was, you didn't have the time, because you just had to get over there, do the talk, and that was it. One of the big things Pasquale said to other people, he said to me a lot, you think too much and you talk too much. So finally, like, this lady comes in the office, she was a Spanish-speaking lady, she was Dominican to me, and I knew her from before, so I took care, I said, this time I'm not gonna say anything. Except, greetings, hello, gets in the table, I didn't say a word while I served her. Then she got up, she goes to me, this is a spiritual experience. So I knew, all right, I'm on the right track. So I'm just gonna tie all these things together that I was just talking about here, and all these notes, and you can go back, I'll give you the videos. I can put all them together, I just have to convert to one video and then edit it. I have to learn a little more technical. I'm learning how to do one last technical thing. So I want to put these together for people to understand. Because that's a big statement to say it didn't come here as a healing art, chiropractic primarily. It really came here for our spiritual progression. And I'll let each person, whatever that means to you, it means to you. But at some point, I said to myself, there's an old saying, you surrender to God, God takes over your schedule. And by doing that, that to me is allowing me just to relax and just to allow this light to flow through me, allow these stumbling blocks to leave me. So when someone comes into me, if they're ready to just be around someone who's just going to love them for exactly who they are, I'm not trying to change them, I'm not here to give them any advice really on how to run their lives, just to let them be who they are, to let them feel safe, to let them decide how they want to do it. There's other stuff I said here tonight I wouldn't say to the people that come into me. That's for this little group here. So I wrote these words down, and I have more on that, but I don't want to get into that this evening. But just remember about what he says, when you're in that pause, you can't be taken apart. You're whole. And a lot of people are viewing themselves as broken and as beat up, and that's how they get themselves into trouble, and that's how, I'll tell this last one, then I'm going to finish. They went up to this guy, he was very good at using people, very good at getting people to do things. And someone said, well, some of the people are drug addicts, so that's easy, I just give them drugs, and they'll do whatever, I'll have them stealing stuff, doing this or that, and they give it to me because they know I'll give them what they want. He said, that's easy. If the guy said, yeah, but some of these people, they're not drug addicts and they're from good lives, how do you get them to do these things that you want them to do? And he goes, everyone has a hole in their heart. He goes, I fill it up. He goes, then I take it away. So they look at me as I'm the guy who can fill that up for them. So look, we all have that heart in the left field, because that's the fall of man for me, but really the heart's in the center. But there are some people who know how to trick people as if they're hustlers, and they know how to get people to feel like, I know how to make you feel like your heart's in the center, but it's only through me, and you gotta do this, and they're really using these people, and it's abusive. But for me, a chiropractor, we let those people feel safe where they have that recognition where they're not broken, they're not beat up, they are God's image, they are connected to God. Once they start doing that, on their own, they'll do that journey back to the center. And they'll start to live that way. And for me, that's what chiropractic does. And then the physical stuff goes away because you're so filled with light. All the people are sick. As J. Robinson Vernon was Pasquale's professor. He was a chiropractor. He's the guy who wrote The Science and Logic of Chiropractic, and he wrote a bunch of other books. Rational Bacteriology with a guy named C.W. Wyant, another guy named Watkins, and all that. Pasquale had me read all these books, and like Todd, I used to go up to his kitchen, give me these books to read, then I had to give him a book report on it almost. And he would sit there and he'd say, all right. And just being in his presence made me feel safe to talk about these things. And if I made a mistake, all right, I made a mistake. He didn't beat me up, or he just said it. And, but he was a person, he made me feel safe to work on what I had to work on. And to me, that's what self-centered is about. That's what self-centered chiropractors are about. Because if somebody feels safe, they will do the work, and you'll see the miracles happen. And that's chiropractic for me. So that's what I have to say. Does anyone want to ask me anything? Phil, do you wanna do it, Brian?
Yeah, anybody have any questions for Brian?
I'll just stand over here. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when you get somebody coming in to you,
Yeah.
what do you ask?
What brings
What do you
here?
say to them?
What brings you here?
Okay, then what else?
People are busting at the seams to tell you what's going on with them.
And then what's the next thing they tell you?
Oh God, I've heard it all, Mark.
Yeah.
From horrible abuse of children to,
No, but
You
you
know,
said
they
what
stub
brings
their
you.
toe.
You said what brings you here first, and then
What do you want?
well, then I say, then I add, well, they usually, I don't have to, that's what the people don't tell me. Most people just say it right away. But for those who don't, I go, what brings you here? Yeah, and I'm like, and I do that, what are you looking, from me? And I said, if you come in here, and then I just add, I also, if they don't tell me who sent, because 99% of the people who come in here are sent by someone. I get maybe a couple of, what are these, Google review things or whatever. I get a handful of those, but not many. It's mainly all referral. And that's it. And then they tell me, and then we go from there.
do they? Can I ask them?
Go ahead.
Do they ask you? Do they come in and say, "Oh, I came here because my friend, I was working on a job, I hurt my back, and
Yeah.
and he told me you'll help me."
Yeah.
Okay, and then what do you say to him then?
Well, I figure out what's going on, and I tell them, I said, this is what I feel needs to be done for today. And they're like, well, how long? I said, I don't know how long it's going to take. I said, come back here another day and let's see what happens. But somebody's, I said, let's say they're really beat up. I said, you have a road ahead of you if you really want to, be really strong. If you're willing to do that, but I always say small sequential steps. Despacio, slow in Spanish. And when they do that, and the ones that allow themselves to slow down, they're the ones who really get better. So I'm like, well, I should be better in one day. I'm like, I hope that happens for you. But if it doesn't, you can't put that on me, because I'm not saying that.
Go ahead, Mark.
But do you say to them, okay, there's a universal intelligence,
I don't say
or
any of
there's
that. None of that.
God, spirit.
None of that.
We're gonna.
They have to sense it that I have that inside of me, because I have that inside of me. And they sense it, and they say that to me without me saying it. That's when I realized I was on the right path. Because you will help draw that out of that person by being it.
Nancy has a question. Go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, I'm just curious, along those lines, what you're just saying, do people actually talk to you about their spiritual development, about their relationship with God, and the amount of love and charity that they feel to people?
A lot of people say that stuff to me. They say it in various ways, but yeah, and it's a very emotional thing for some of the people sometimes, because some of them, they've been so beat up and so lost for so long, and it's like they found themselves again. They have their lives back. They didn't think they'd ever do this. And I noticed some of these people had personal battles with family members for years, and now, and then when a family member came in, now they're back to they're having a relationship again. These people who hadn't been in the same room in who knows how many, I don't recall the amount of years, but at least 10. And you see that, and I didn't tell him, I didn't even know the situation was going on until he told me. So yes, Nancy, people, that's just one example. But people talk to me about all sorts of stuff.
If there's no other questions, we gotta give Brian a hand.
Thank you, everybody. That was excellent.